Justin Herbert's first year as a Charger. Was it a good one? Was it a bad one? Or was it mediocre? How about the Rams? How crucial is this game against the Arizona Cardinals? Find out in this next episode of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Happy New Year's Eve to each and every one of you guys. Hope you guys all have a good one. But before you guys enjoy it, how about tuning into this one on Sideline Sports Podcast? I'm the host, Alex Naveca, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, the source of all your SoCal sports news. Hope you guys also had great holidays, whatever your holiday it may be. Hope you guys all had a great one. And we're bringing in a very familiar face. He's great at not only golf, but also great for the Chargers and also great for the Rams. And future, I'm going to say it, one day going to be on the PGA Tour, Mr. William Hernandez, also known as Will Hernandez from CBS Sports, the sports reporter. Will, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm feeling even better after, your very bold prediction there. I'm just trying to make it, I'm just trying to break 100, man. So whenever I do that, then, I'll feel better about my golf game. But doing great, man. 2020 is pretty much in my rearview mirror. I'm looking forward to 2021. And, hopefully we get through this pandemic pretty soon. And, we're able to go to games again, see each other again and hang out. I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, Will. I'm happy to be here on Sideline Sports Podcast, bringing you guys content for the final day of the 2020 year. And I know all of you guys are just anxious to jump onto 2021 and anxious to be back on the stadiums and just being there and cheering and supporting all of your favorite SoCal teams and everything. I know you are, Will. I am too. I just can't wait. As soon as they give the word, hey, fans are allowed in the stadiums, I don't care what game it is, I am there. So expect me to be there at any game there, Will. But you know what? Let's talk about this Chargers first year with Justin Herbert. And I just got to say, this guy broke so many expectations. Not only expectations, I'm going to say he broke necks. I'm going to say he broke records. He broke Baker Mayfield's rookie year quarterback, or the rookie year touchdown record that he had. I believe it was with 28 in his rookie year. And Justin Herbert broke it like nothing. What have been your thoughts of this former Pac-12 native?
Justin Herbert, he's pretty much made it clear that he should have been a number one overall pick in last year's draft. He's been everything that probably the Chargers expected him to be and more. Granted, he likely wouldn't have even been in his position had Tyrod Taylor not gotten hurt or had not, the Chargers medical staff punctured his lung. But he's been phenomenal. Going into this last week of the year, he's number 14 in QBR, which is, pretty solid. There's a short list of guys who are up there. And he's been phenomenal. Granted, there's been some games that the Chargers won and lost that they probably shouldn't. I'm not going to say that he's at fault for it, but the Chargers have been in pretty much every game, and I don't think they've lost one game by more than one possession since he's taken over. Except for the Patriots game where they just got demolished. But you could throw that out the window. Bill Belichick pretty much has everybody's number, every rookie quarterback's number. But Justin Herbert has been great. He came into the league. He took over that game against the Chiefs, and he looked like clearly the better quarterback that day up until the fourth quarter. But he's been absolutely great. He looks every bit like the Justin Herbert you used to see in Eugene, Oregon. And with that talent around him, it's only going to get better. I mean, to have to throw 28 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions for a rookie quarterback is really, really good. And granted, he has a great, arsenal of weapons around him. And, the Chargers aren't going to make the playoffs. They're obviously in a tough division. They lost some games that they probably should have won. You can't put that all on him. I would probably say the coaching staff probably failed him there. And, but, when the Chargers have let him, cook, for lack of a better word, or let him, take over the offense and let him air it out, he's been great. And the Chargers have looked great. They've looked, almost better than they've looked, Phillip Rivers. And granted, Phillip Rivers is great. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. But,
Absolutely.
Justin Herbert, he's a more mobile version of Phillip Rivers. And, the future is bright for the LA Chargers.
I really liked that draft pick that the Chargers made. As soon as I saw that Justin Herbert was going to the Chargers, I knew this was the move that the Chargers needed to make. Great draft pick. And you know what? He stayed in, mentally locked in a lot of games. Just unfortunately, a lot of the play calling was in a lot of question marks there, losing a lot of close games, losing against a lot of great contenders like the Chiefs and like the Saints, just to name a few teams that they fell short with. Of course, the Raiders and also the Broncos also in some of those games. But we know that they're only one season away from being a contender and really giving the Chiefs their money's worth. So, which leads me to this next question for you, Will. What is that next step for the Chargers? What is it that they need? I mean, I know the answer, but I know you got the longer version of that answer.
Well, they have some issues, I would argue, with the offensive line that they could probably seal up a little better, that I feel that Herbert really masked, just with his playmaking ability and ability to scramble. Obviously, a lot of it is going to fall under Anthony Lynn. He's a great guy, great human being, great person, and the players really love him, but he's just not a great game manager. And you've seen that in multiple situations. I mean, you saw what happened against the Patriots. When you go up against, and granted, the Patriots weren't really that good this year. They kind of sucked. And, they had, you saw them get annihilated on Monday Night Football, against the Bills. But, and, in that game against the Chargers, they had a couple of special teams plays, but all that really falls under Anthony Lynn, not having a team prepared. And, I kind of go back to that playoffs. I believe it was 2017 or 2018 when when the Chargers they had a really good team. They beat the Ravens in the playoffs in the wild card round, and they go to Foxborough and get annihilated. It was over by halftime. In that situation, when you have a coach like Bill Belichick, the guy who's playing, he's playing chess when everybody's playing checkers. You have that kind of coaching matchup where he's, a guy like Anthony Lynn is a little overmatched. Guys like Belichick exploit it. And he more than likely, I'm starting to feel, considering the way the Chargers are ending the season, there's a good chance he may be back next season. And, Chargers fans might not like that. He's not a bad guy at all. I just feel he's not a great game manager. And, in a division when you have, the Chiefs, you have the Raiders who are up and coming. The Broncos are kind of but, if you really want to take a team to, the Mount Everest of the NFL, you're going to need a really, really good coach. And unfortunately, Anthony Lynn has yet to show that he's capable of, leading team, to the Super Bowl or even to the AFC title game. And, I think also too, if, they had a lot of injuries this season, especially on defense. Joey Bosa hasn't really played all year. Melvin Ingram hasn't played all year. He missed some time. They lost Derwin James, beginning of the year. That was a huge loss. And, the defense, they haven't, you go back to that game against the Chiefs. The Chargers were in that driver's seat to win that game. Herbert throws a pick, and then the Chiefs go back. He throws a pick right before the third quarter or the end of the third quarter. And, Chiefs go down and score, and, they go on to win the game. If you have a really good defense, say like the Rams, the Chargers hold on and win that game, and or maybe in a wild card hunt right now. If you ask me who I'd rather have, Jared Goff or Justin Herbert, I would say Justin Herbert 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. He's that type of guy. And it's his rookie year. So you got to give him some time. Or, you have to at least give him a mulligan, a breakfast ball, as they say in golf, for this season. But the Chargers are right there. They're going to be knocking on the door every year. They have a guy who could compete with, who could go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. Yeah, and, once they build that running game, it should make it a lot easier for Justin Herbert. There were a lot of games this year where, he had to pretty much do everything on his own. You go back to that game against the Saints. If they had a better running game that game, and granted, they had, they weren't missing Austin. They missed Austin Eckler pretty much the whole season. He didn't come back till, I believe it was week 12. And granted, I love Austin Eckler, but he's not necessarily that bell cow that, could carry you, or, can help you ice a game. He can in a passing game. But, a really good, complimentary back to go along with Austin Eckler, I'm sure would have really helped the Chargers, and, help them, better manage games better. So, once you kind of build better defense around them, hopefully guys stay healthy next year. They already have a pretty solid defense. Unfortunately, just had a lot of injuries this year, especially in the offensive line. Bulaga missed a lot of games, the guy that they brought in during the offseason from Green Bay. Trey Turner was hurt for a couple games, that they brought in from Carolina in a trade for they sent Russell Kuhn to Carolina. So, they lost, I believe, Mike Pouncey or Marquise Pouncey, one of the Pouncey brothers. I think he was gone after one game or two. So, the Chargers, they have a lot of holes just like every other NFL team. But they have, the future is definitely bright moving forward for them. Next year, I definitely expect them to be a playoff team.
Absolutely. I definitely have a lot of faith in what we see in the Chargers. I think they are not far away from being a contender there in the AFC, considering how many teams are up on the rise for the AFC. But my short version to the question I asked you, Will, was I think they just need a better head coach. I don't think Anthony Lynn is for a team like the Chargers. I think the Chargers need someone with a big name, someone they can bring in and be able to show Justin Herbert the ways of how to maneuver your way through the NFL and help them to become a contender, because clearly they have what it takes to keep up with the Chiefs. They're not that far away. Like, they've made the Chiefs panic in both of their meetings when they've played each other, and considering the first time that they met up, they took them all the way to overtime, and it was miscues. That's the reason why the Chargers didn't come up with the victor. But I think they need a better play caller. I think they need a better head coach at the end of the day, someone with a big resume, someone that's going to just carry the Chargers and help them out there. But you know what, Will? Let's take a quick break. When we come back, can the Rams really be out of the playoffs after playing some pretty good football in the beginning of the season? Find out in the second half of Sideline Sports Podcast.
This is Hector Aguayo, the long snapper for the Santa Ana Dons, and you're watching Sideline Sports Podcast.
And welcome back to Sideline Sports Podcast. I'm the host, Alex Naveja, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, the source of your SoCal sports news. And again, with me today is Will Hernandez from CBSLA, the sports reporter, giving us all the latest news and breakdowns of both the Chargers and of the Rams. First half, we're talking about what Justin Herbert's first season with the Chargers are like. What is the move for the Chargers? What will it take for the Chargers to be back to their winning ways and to be able to keep up with the Chiefs? Now, this second half of the podcast, this is when things get very interesting. Only one spot in the NFC wild card position. Clearly, we know the Bucs they're going to get that first spot. That second spot is wide open. 3 teams remaining: Rams, Cardinals, Bears. Rams not exactly in the best position, especially with losing against the Jets and also to the Seahawks. And they're going to be missing some big name players: Jared Goff, Cooper Kupp, and Michael Brockers. They announced that earlier today, and now Rams are pinned to the corner now. So, Will, how crucial is this game for the Rams against the Cardinals?
It's huge. There's no question about it. They're also going to be missing running back Darrell Henderson. We're not sure yet if the Rams are going to get Cam Akers back, who is, he's really come on as of late since he's taken over the starting job. But obviously he missed last week. I'm pretty sure he would have had a bigger impact. I mean, unfortunately, Darrell Henderson got hurt. He was going in for that touchdown and he got tackled, and I believe it's a thigh injury. But he's done for the season. He's more likely not going to come back, and it's a huge game. There's no question about it. But let's see what happens with John Wolford. He did well when he was in AAF, the very short-lived AAF. The Rams, obviously, Sean McVay obviously saw something in him that they brought him on. He made the team, through, playing in the preseason, excuse me. Obviously, there's no preseason this year, so we didn't get to see nothing of him. But he did play in the preseason last season. He beat out, I believe it was Brian Hill, or I'll take that back. I'm not sure who he beat out. But, the Rams definitely have a lot of confidence in him. Sean McVay has a lot of confidence in him, to go out and hopefully at least try to execute, because as we've seen the last couple of weeks, Jared Goff has really struggled to, just make, he's looked different out there. He's made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes, that you have to believe was in the first half when the Rams were up 6-3 against the Seahawks. He has plenty of room to run and take a first down or, get some positive yardage, and they were in Seahawks territory. Instead, he throws it. He makes an uncharacteristic throw, a throw that's pretty much a cardinal sin for quarterbacks, which is thrown across the body. It's intercepted, and, it's pretty much all downhill from there. But it's huge. Fortunately for the Rams, though, they can still get into the playoffs even if they lose. But they're going to need Green Bay to beat the Bears. And if I had a bet, I'd probably bet that the Packers are going to win because, for one, I believe the game is in Green Bay, so that helps. Mitchell Trubisky has been playing really, really good as of late. And granted, they've faced teams that aren't that great, but, the Packers really want to win this game because if they win, it locks up the number 1 seed for them in the NFC, which guarantees them a bye. And there's only one bye this year. Usually 2 teams get a first-round bye, but this year nobody gets a bye, except for that number 1 seed. And 2, it guarantees them that, any team that wants to make the Super Bowl, they're going to have to go through Green Bay. And, as we saw last week, it's going to be cold. It's going to be the frozen tundra. It's going to be snowing. And Aaron Rodgers right now is locked in. I mean, he's motivated as I've ever seen him, probably since 2011 when he won the Super Bowl. And, right now, I don't see anybody beating him. But with that said, it's a huge game for the Rams. They're going to be, like you said, they're going to miss some guys in addition to Jared Goff. Cooper Kupp's out, a really solid receiver for the Rams. He leads them in targets, yards. Michael Brockers, who's a really good complementary piece to Aaron Donald on the defensive line, he's out. And, they're obviously missing Darrell Henderson. So it's going to be basically the Malcolm Brown and hopefully Cam Akers show. So, there's not much that needs to be said about how important this game is for the Rams. Fortunately for them, Sean McVay hasn't lost to the Cardinals since he's taken over. So that helps. And, we'll see. I mean, the Rams, they haven't really had a lot of work for them as of late, but they are playing at SoFi, which helps. They still have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, which helps. And, Ramsey has played really well against the Cardinals. He's locked up DeAndre Hopkins. Right now, the spread's only 3, which is essentially telling you that the Vegas wise guys think that the Cardinals are only 3 points better than – well, in a regular year, they'd be saying that they think right now, with the way the teams are looking right now, that they're 6 points better than the Rams, which definitely is not the case. But, it's a pandemic year. There's no fans. So they're essentially saying that they're like 4 points better than the Rams right now. And, Murray, he got banged up at the end of last week against the Niners. He's more than likely going to play, but, he's not 100%. And against the Rams, he's looked really, really bad. In the last game, I think he had a shoulder injury, so he didn't really look himself. I remember seeing a chart where, like, pretty much all his passes or all of DeAndre Hopkins' routes were, like, just to the outside, nothing across the middle. And so, it's a coin flip to see, who wins. But the Rams have a great chance. The over-under is only 40, which means that, the wise guys expect it to be a really close game. But the Rams are going to have to work it out for them. There's no question about it. I'm not a big believer in the Cardinals defense. I like Kyler Murray, but, against the Rams, he's looked really bad. So we'll see. But, it's not totally over for the Rams if they win. And if I'm not correct, I believe they'll know by the time kickoff comes around if they're going to, let me see here. I believe that they're oh, no. So the Green Bay-Chicago game is a 125 game as well, which is good. The NFL sets this all up, so there's no, like, looking ahead or, scoreboard watching. But the Rams still have a chance to make the playoffs. Granted, they'll have to face probably the Saints or, I don't know, trying to think who else. Or, they might get to face if they win this week, they're more than likely going to face the winner of the NFC East, which is not bad. Or they'll face this, because the Seahawks will more than likely get the number 3 seed, which would which would send the Rams likely to Washington. And we saw what happened last time when they faced the Washington football team. But, they are a different team nowadays. Chase Young has been playing great, but, it's a very ambiguous situation for the Rams right now. But with that all said, they have to win this week, because I wouldn't want to go to face New Orleans, especially with what happened last time they faced the Saints in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And of course, the memories of that pass interference call will be coming back. A lot of people will bring that memory back, and they're going to think, hey, now the Saints are going to get a call in their favor. And then, of course, the other thing was that if the Rams make it to the playoffs, that Jared Goff apparently would be coming back even after he received thumb surgery after the game against the Seahawks. Right away went into surgery to repair that thumb, and they're saying that he might come back. And then another thing that I was going to tell you too, Will, was if you're the Rams, you don't want to put it too much entirely on that Green Bay and Bears game. You said it just right. I think the Rams need to win this game, because you don't want to go into the playoffs in a losing streak. I mean, you lost against the Jets, like we mentioned before. You lost against the Seahawks. Now you're going to lose against another division opponent. Not something you want to do going ice cold in the playoffs. And this just goes to show you how urgent, how important this game is for the Rams. And if you win this game and the first round having to play against the Washington football team, hey, I think there's definitely an opportunity for the Rams to be able to make it deep into the playoffs, despite the offense and Jared Goff looking a little lost. More the Jared Goff side, because we've had a lot of question marks about him being in the pocket and him being a quarterback and a lot of the decisions that he's been making lately.
Yeah, he's been really inconsistent this season. It's been up and down. And last 2 games it's been pretty down. I mean, against the Jets, he brought him back. They were able to, to make the game out of it. But in that first half, he was, he was making really bad decisions. I go back to that pick in the first half where, he was scrambling. He could have taken some yards, and instead he opts to throw it, and defender makes a really good play. I don't know if he's scared. Maybe he got an injury. Obviously he had a thumb injury, and that's going to keep him out this week and perhaps, in the playoffs. But, he's been making some really bad decisions. His confidence is not there. His decision-making is not there. And, granted, there's been more pressure on him this season with, I mean, the running game, the games where the Rams have had a good running game, where they've been able to run the ball, he's looked really good because, he hasn't had to do a lot. But, a lot of games he's had to do a lot. And, his decision making, again, going back to last week, that interception I mentioned just before the half, the fact that he could have taken positive yards instead he throws it tells me that, he's lost, or either that, or he's there's some fear factor in that. And I'm no expert. I'm not an NFL scout. I'm not a former player. I play football, but, I don't see what these guys are going through. I'm not there with them. But, you see quarterbacks like, for example, Carson Wentz, who, ever since that huge MVP season, where the Eagles won Super Bowl, but he got hurt against the Rams at the Coliseum. Ever since then, he really hasn't looked the same. And you're starting to see that with Jared Goff, ever since that Super Bowl against the Patriots, like, he hasn't looked the way he looked before. And granted, they lost Todd Gurley, they lost the old Todd Gurley, where, those first 2 years with Sean McVay, he was a beast. He was a beast.
Yeah, he was.
And, I don't know what happened. One day we'll find out what happened with Todd Gurley, what really happened with Todd Gurley. But, and granted, yeah, he was probably injured, like he has to be banged up. But, Todd Gurley and that offensive line was really the motor. It was the oil to that, motor that was running. And ever since then, Jared Goff really hasn't looked the same. The book's out on him. You put pressure on him and, he panics or he makes bad decisions. And unfortunately, that's been the case for the Rams this season. And, but you never know in the playoffs, anything can happen. You just need to get hot. And the Rams definitely, the thing is with the Rams, they have such a good defense. They have a Super Bowl winning defense, a Super Bowl level defense, a championship defense. Offense just hasn't been able to put it together, consistently. And, that's troubling considering that, Sean McVay is a, offensive genius, so they say, an offensive specialist. And, they've had games where they look really good. But, as of late, they struggled to put games together. I mean, the game against the Jets, that wasn't a fluke. That was just, they definitely weren't prepared. But also, I think what's not being stated enough is that the Rams have had COVID issues, going back a couple of weeks now. The week against the Jets, I don't believe they practiced that much. The facilities were closed. So I believe, like, a good majority of leading up to the game was mostly done through Zoom. Or not everybody was in the building together, whereas they usually are. And granted, it's 2020. It's a difficult year. And then we're seeing this week, Cooper Kupp's out due to COVID reasons. Michael Brockers is more than likely going to be out due to COVID reasons. They both got placed on the COVID list. Those are two huge losses, So, it's a number of issues, but we'll see about Jared Goff, and, he definitely has a short leash moving forward. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams either pick up quarterback via free agency or, quarterback through the draft this upcoming year. Because, granted, we'll see what happens to John Wolford. I'm excited just to see what he does. But he is a backup. He is going to be playing in his first legit NFL game against a legit NFL defense. Granted, Cardinals defense is okay. You got them, you saw them, they got shredded last week by C.J. Beathard and the Niners running game. But they have a good running game. And Kyle Shanahan, I love Sean McVay, but I'll take Kyle Shanahan any day over Sean McVay. And I'm sure a lot of Rams fans out there will probably chew me out on Twitter. But I'll say, Sean McVay is a disciple of Kyle Shanahan. But, Kyle Shanahan, if he was a coach of the Rams, they don't lose that game to the Jets. They probably beat the Seahawks. But, we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a fun Sunday, definitely. Got to watch that Packers-Bears game. And, of course, you want to keep an eye out on the Rams and the Cardinals game. Both games going to be one of those afternoon games, 1:30 p.m. game that you definitely want to keep an eye out on. And, of course, just keeps getting exciting and more exciting here in this NFL season. But that's all the time we have left here on Sideline Sports Podcast. We thank you all so much for tuning into this one. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please give this episode a thumbs up. Also, hit the subscribe button down below so that way we can continue to bring in guests like Will Hernandez every week. And again, the man himself, future PGA Tour golfer Will Hernandez, also from the CBSLA sports reporter himself. Will, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me, Alex. And, Happy New Year's to everybody. Hopefully we put 2020 in our rear view mirror. Hopefully 2021 works out for everybody. And, stay safe out there. Don't do anything dumb. Don't get in large crowds. Just take it easy at home with family if you can. And, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure being on with Alex. And, thank you. Hopefully, let's, grab some popcorn, grab some refreshments, whatever you like to drink, eat. Should be a fun week of NFL football.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out on it, folks, this Sunday. And, of course, make sure to stay safe tonight, everybody. Happy New Year's to each and every one of you guys from the Sideline Sports Podcast crew. And, of course, I'm Alex Naveja, the host of Sideline Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good one, everybody. I will see you on 2021.